Hello everyone, you made it May 25 here, and you talk about right here is for Columbine 1999. Talk about for Amanda Duran, and then basically that you see right here is I we hidden drew right here a portrait painting right here of Amanda, and I'm like while I was watching it's like on the the YouTube page I was also watching some of the video postings of some of the Columbine student survivors, if they were students or just visitors from the school. But you see right here is I would hit paint right here is a picture right here of Amanda, and I'm like yeah, that the way I went painted this is like just getting some ideas based on from what I've seen from the video. And I'm sure that any survivors from that shooting massacre could probably say that even if they were be looking at maybe a yearbook. Like if any student were to think about, just you looking at a yearbook, that there's so much really to talk about, to where you only have about maybe 8 minutes or maybe 10 minutes of your time really to talk about, from what you can remember, and then about the details from oh yeah, what was in order, what came first after last. But and I'm sure that we probably remember quite a few things, but then we're just trying to maybe recall from what happened from day one to day five, and all the other stuff that happened during that time as well. For that when if a student was in the school at the time during the massacre, the shooting massacre, and then whenever by the time that they evacuated the school, and then from the time that they went up to the police, and then the police will radio in for who was still in the building, and then for who was injured, and then as well as for any other concerns for the matter. But you have right here is a painting I would have right here, like for talk about for Amanda Duran, and basically that if it's pronounced Duran, but please forgive me if I don't pronounce the name right, but as well as the artwork right here that while I was painting this, that according I only took about maybe 25 or 30 minutes or so just to paint this picture right here. But if anybody were to think that I'm like, yeah, that like work right here with the paint tool, to where that I keep thinking about this, to where that whenever we're in school, that we may think that really that anything that you're doing on the computer related, to where those couple of years ago that sometimes that I would play some violent video game, such as maybe a shooting game, or maybe if it's anything related to anything violence on video games, that anything that was related to computers, to where that students that may say that yeah, like I'm sure students are if familiar with like the games, like the video games like GoldenEye, 007 GoldenEye, or if it's Grand Theft Auto or any of those other games, to where that thinking that you'll be like any other type of video games like that. Like I don't know. I'm like I really don't know if there's any game in particular to where that you learn to like well, work with fireworks. I'm like that I'm like anybody probably say that anything that maybe based on like a video game, more likely that it's possible to where that yeah, video game, to where that working with maybe other type of weapons or anything. But on the other hand too, with my artwork, to where that anybody that wanted, to where really I'm like, what can you learn by artwork, like any type of illustration or Photoshop type work. And I could probably say that there's a lot of tools that what I usually go by saying is like as a student, to where that you may have access to a number of things like a toolbox. It's like if you had whenever you do have access to a toolbox, to where that there's a number of tools that maybe you don't know what they're for, and how to use them until you take the time to learn the basics, and then somebody teaches you the basics about how to do that. And with my artwork here, I keep thinking about, really, I'm like, what are people necessarily thinking about? That if you're doing a painting about that somebody maybe that you knew at some time, or what you heard about on the news or something like that. But for any of the Columbine High School shooting, that from the survivors, especially from the library, that I'm sure that they probably say libraries are usually quiet. But then at some point is that yeah, that on that day of April the 20th of 1999, that it was not quiet, to where that that with the massacre that went on. And I'm sure that like 10 minutes may not seem like a whole lot of time really to talk about everything. And I guess to say, just to make the long story short, is to where that I basically had to think about to where what do I do? Okay, it was a situation to where that hide or how to escape, and the situation for whenever you escape. So I'm sure that there's a lot of students to where that they were pretty much in a lot of shock after by the time that they got out of the school building, and from whenever that they were interviewed by police, by sheriffs, and as well as deputies, that were all there, like Warren, to where that from what all you've seen. And I'm sure that any student that may warrant to where that it was kind of shocking just to hear the names of the shooters, to where that if maybe if they don't ring a bell, or that well that don't seem like that person right there, I'm like they seem like pretty nice, honest students, until all of a sudden that day came to where that some they say that that around the time of a senior prank day or something. But on the other hand, that with any type of artwork, to where that I basically talk about, it's like a story that from my high schools that I went to, of course they had rules about that, about violence and all that stuff. But on the other hand, that I can remember that whenever I was in school, that that there was a few other things that were going on too. That I'm like that you kind of had forgotten about, since about the massacre at Columbine. And whenever I do think about that, I keep thinking about a number of those kids, those students, to where that that for anything that went on, and making sure that the school was protected. And whenever I was going to school, I could probably say that there was quite a few students that friends that I did make later on in the years. And a lot of times that they were we were mainly talking about maybe the assemblies and maybe the games and stuff like that were going on. And but other than that, it was at my high school that's basically what it was. And then I know that at some times that they may do have like pranks that go on, and like for senior pranks. But on the other hand, it seems like anybody say that that's like a totally different story when it comes to well, hey, about the seniors, and then as well as the juniors and sophomores and freshmen. And thinking about to where whenever I do my artwork here, I'm like, really, really, does this look like the actual person? That person for Amanda, that does that look like her? From her sophomore year, her senior year. So I try my best, of course, just to make the picture look a little bit beautiful looking, presented. And that this was like maybe the art contest for like anybody that made something meaningful, to where that that they want to see a source of art put together by that particular artist. And I had done other sources of artwork, of course, but one of those will be like that I was not given the opportunity too much at all, to where that students over there at my high school, to where I would show them some artwork that I put together right here. If it was anything about maybe a student ID, or maybe a senior class picture or anything like that, like Warren, to where that what do you think if you want to go ahead and do a portrait of a student right here. And it was not on Photoshop or Illustrator, but in my art class that I had on my senior year, of course, that was working with drawn by pencil, sketched by pencil. So anybody that more likely weren't, to where if you do a portrait by anybody that you may not met, or you may not have seen before, and you're like thinking about how can all that really come together, to where that with the artist, to where that there's probably a number of things wrong with the picture, to where that this person right here, that they may have had braids. They may have had their hair braided back, or they were wearing a different styled dress shirt or something like that. They may have had makeup on, stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know if I can get everything right, but then on your hand too, just thinking about it, it's like those students to where they go to school for an education, and then necessarily think about it is like for the future as well. And I'm sure even though if it happened 12 years ago or so, it still comes into mind, to where really I'm like for how we can improve, like for the safety for our children. And talk about right here for Columbine 1999 for Amanda Duran, and talk about right here. Thanks for watching. My name is 25.